Welcome back to Inside Sources. Now, last week, we had a take on the situation with Dangote Refinery and the regulators. A good thing, this past Monday, the Federal Executive Council took a decision which most people have welcomed as helpful in trying to resolve the knotty issues between Dangote Refinery and the NNPC. To explain this decision to us, I have with me today Mr. Hector Igwikobo, who is the publisher of Sweet Crude, a journalist in that industry for over 30 years. Hector, you are welcome back to Inside Sources.
Thank you.
All right. So, can you please explain to our viewers what this decision of the Federal Executive Council means? It says that now the part of the domestic crude allocation to NNPC will be going to Dangote Refinery in the first instance and all the other local refineries, and that the transaction will be done in Naira, not dollars. Hector, can you unpack this just so the average Nigerian understands what this is all about?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Thanks once again for having me. To put a historical perspective on this, what we need to understand is that prior to 2001, the NNPC paid for crude oil it gets for domestic refining in Naira. So that made cost recovery a problem for the NNPC. The NNPC had the issue of cost recovery, and the Obasanjo administration now decided that henceforth, that's going forward from there on out, the NNPC would have to pay for domestic crude oil it receives in dollars. Now, that decision was taken to, as much as possible, reduce the issue of cost recovery, the concerns around cost recovery, to ensure there was accountability. That's why that decision was taken. But you see, the question to ask now is, what measures have been put in place to stop the recurrence of the lack of cost recovery? Because it's not enough to go back to the status quo ante. We need to look at what measures have been put in place to ensure that doesn't happen going forward. That's the concerns around cost recovery. Now, you know as well as I do that whenever there's an issue in Nigeria, whenever there's a problem in Nigeria, we come up with this knee-jerk approach. We throw anything at it just to solve it going forward. But in solving it, we create other problems. So questions need to be asked. What measures have been put in place to ensure that the NNPC actually achieves cost recovery? Because we've been crying on the one hand about opacity and the lack of accountability in governments, in the NNPC in particular. So if we now say crude oil can be sold to local refiners in Naira, how do we ensure that there is cost recovery going forward? That is the question we need for the government to address.
So now, talking about the cost recovery, which you're trying to explain now, I want you to explain to our audience why that matters in the value chain. Because I want to keep a focus on whether this new arrangement is going to produce for the Nigerian people at least marginally reduce fuel pump price.
First off, we must concern ourselves with availability. Nigerians have had an easy ride for so long. I say this because we expect to be ignorant and free of the consequences of ignorance. And you know as well as I do that that wouldn't wash. The fact that you do not know that electricity shocks or you get electrocuted if you grasp a naked wire does not mean it will not electrocute you. You know, you can't be ignorant and expect to be free of the consequences of ignorance. Now, Nigerians expect fuel to be readily available at the pump. Fair enough. But you see, it costs money to even get it to the pump. You know, we need to appreciate that there's a correlation there. Now, the NNPC cannot continue to supply crude oil to local refiners, as it were, without recovering costs. The crude oil itself costs money to get out of the ground. There's a process called exploration and production. So when you explore for crude, you bring it out of the ground. It doesn't come out of the ground as just crude oil. It comes out of the ground with gas. It comes out of the ground with sand. It comes out of the ground with water. And all of this has to be separated at a flow station. At a flow station, you separate the crude from the gas, from the sand, from the water. The water itself has to be treated because it's poisonous. You pump it into the open sea, it kills all the fishes there. It damages the ecosystem. So it has to be treated before it's pumped back. The gas itself is either fled or it has to be sent to a gas station for treatment, where you separate the wet gas from whatever else. That which has to go to the LNG goes to the LNG. That which has to be used for domestic, that's LPG. Liquefied petroleum gas goes to that. Compressed natural gas goes, and so forth and so on. So it takes processing to make crude oil readily available. And this processing is largely denominated in USD. It's not Naira, because the input that goes into crude oil production is largely USD, from the drilling to the personnel to all of that. Now, the NNPC gets its own share of crude based on the joint venture it has with its partners, Shell, Mobil, Total, ENI, and all the others. Right. So having gotten its own share is not denominated in Naira, it's denominated in USD, US dollars. Right. But you see, for the purposes of energy security, it is only fair that the government does what it has done right now by reverting to sell in Naira, because exchange takes place in Nigeria in Naira, not in USD. So by ensuring it is sold in Naira, you're deepening economic activities in Nigeria. You're shoring up the value of the Naira. You are attracting foreign investors as well. So it's good on the one hand, but my position is accountability. We need to have an NNPC whose accounting system is not opaque. We need to have an NNPC whose accounting system is clear for everybody to see.
Hector, sorry, there is the difference between the official rate and the power rate, don't you think is almost insignificant right now?
What I think is immaterial. What I think is neither here nor there. What you and I should be all about is accountability. Accountability. It's Nigerians who messed up whatever process we had in place that costs the Obasanjo administration to say, hey, hang on, wait a minute. Enough of all of this. Since you're not achieving cost recovery, let us just sell in USD. Anybody if NNPC wants to purchase crude for domestic refining, NNPC has to pay for it in USD so that there is no story. So it's Nigerians who brought us to that sorry pass. So the question now is, what extra measures have been put in place to ensure that there isn't abuse?
Thank you so much, Hector. I just hope, and I'm sure that you share this hope also, that even if it is marginal, that this new plan has the potential to reduce the price of the fuel pump. Do you think so?
I don't think so. The measures that can reduce the price at the pumps includes a plethora of other things. It includes moving the product from the refinery to even the depot that is closed. If you have a situation where you can only evacuate petroleum products by tankers, moving on the road, that's a cost element. Don't forget that. What stops us from running a rail line? What stops us from running pipelines? You have petroleum depots spread across the country. What has happened to those depots? Those depots have to be revamped. The pipelines that take products to those depots have to be revitalized. That is what can bring down the marginal cost at the pump. But when you have the middlemen who have to go to the refinery to pick it up, who have to haul it by road, by the bad roads, across lengthy distances, they have to recover costs. There has to be cost recovery. You can't expect to sell petrol, PMS, at the same price you sell it in Lagos as that which you sell it in Abuja, because of the cost of hauling it down there. These are factors we must consider.
Okay. Fair enough. At the very least, like you said, this is something that secures our energy, the availability of this product, at the very least, is going to be secured. And hopefully, with some of these issues sorted out, we can get close to a situation where the Nigerian people will have a benefit from the fact that we have a local refinery instead of having to import, the product from abroad. Thank you so much, Hector, for your explanations and your insight. And thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we say, hashtag Nigeria will prevail. We believe it, and that's why we say it. That's why we're here. My name is Laulu Akonde, and by the grace of God, I'll see you again next week. Thank you for watching.